Now we're recording. Yes, we're on. Okay. Hello, I'm Joe Patton. I'm a personal injury lawyer here in Topeka, and I'm here today with Nancy Hedstrom. Hi, Nancy.
Hello, it's nice to be with you tonight.
The reason I invited Nancy to join us here is because of her background. She's got, what, 8 years teaching, 27 years as an elementary school teacher, right?
Principal.
Oh, yeah, the principal. So 8 years teaching, 27 years as a principal. And then I just found out, right now you're helping your granddaughter with some of the
Correct.
online learning.
I'm her remote learning facilitator now.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It's
Well, that's
called a
what
retired grandma.
yeah, yeah. Well, I want to kind of focus in on that a little bit because I have my clients talking about all the time, what are we going to do? Because they're concerned about the education of their children or folks concerned about their education of their grandchildren. And I just read an article in CJ Online. I'd encourage folks to take a look at it. October 2nd, it's still online. It's an interview with the State Education Commissioner, Randy Watson, well-respected guy. And he was talking to the Kansas Association of School Boards and basically said, we were trying to do in-person learning, hybrid learning, online learning. Those are the models. And he said, quote, neither of the learning models are sustainable. And what we're doing, he said, is not sustainable. He's talking about lack of facilities, lack of staff, lack of financial resources. So I'm not going to ask you to solve that problem. But in light of the fact that we're in COVID and we've got this strange situation going on with schools and learning, let me ask you a couple questions. Okay. What kinds of difficulties is a teacher going to have trying to do online learning in this kind of environment? What's a teacher, give us some background. What, from the point of view of a teacher, that parents should really understand?
Okay. Well, COVID has brought a new use of technology like we've never used it before in education. And teachers use technology in their classrooms every day. But to do it in a remote online learning situation for teachers who are classroom teachers, it's a whole new ballgame. And some of the I've talked to teachers and I've read and I've watched things, and some of the things that I've seen are just first and foremost getting the technology to do what they want it to do. Because teachers can continue to make lesson plans, they know curriculum, they know how to teach, but technology being the method of delivery for remote learning is a whole new ballgame for all of we people who are in classroom teachers and have worked with children in classrooms every day. Things that I have seen are the technology doesn't always work. Internet doesn't always work. It's sometimes spotty for the teacher, it's spotty for the student. And I watched a classroom where the teacher was engaging with the students, and all of a sudden she froze. She got kicked off of their meeting software.
Right.
And the students sat there for 5 minutes very patiently waiting for her to come back on, and finally they said, we might as well leave the meeting because she didn't come back on. She couldn't get back on. So, those kinds of things are very frustrating for both the teacher and the student and the parents who are, so wanting their children to have a good experience in learning, whether it's remote or in the classroom. So that's I think a big challenge. And teachers are having to learn this meeting software, whether it be something like Zoom or Google Meets or whatever software that they're using to be able to interact with their students. And all of the students even having access to the hardware of a computer or a Chromebook or whatever, that's a challenge for school districts because not everybody can afford that.
So there's problems getting the technology to work, figuring it out, even getting it available for all the kids. But assuming are they like using Zoom like we're using here? Or?
Some districts use Zoom. Others use like Google Meeting. I don't know. I am not, you know, an expert on all of the software that's available, but that's, you know, they have to use something to be able to meet online with their
Sure,
students.
sure.
And
Well,
then they're still, and then now some of these hybrid, they're social, when they do have children in school, even the social distancing, you know, the cleanliness, the masks, all of the hand washing, and that's a challenge for teachers, but especially for teachers of the younger children, the preschool, the kindergarten, the first grade, because that's a lot of times when they need really close teacher instruction and support to
sure.
help them start to learn some of those skills.
I-
So,
I've always thought that the biggest problem with education is just boring. It's just has been made boring. And I'm thinking that just watching a teacher lecture in a Zoom classroom has to be boring times 100. Is that correct?
um, I I think you don't see a lot of that at the younger levels. You might see more of it, you know, at like at the high school level, but still, I've seen some really creative things going on, and
Talk
even
about that. What?
well,
Okay,
I teachers have allowed students to work in groups on the and you know with Zoom and I don't know about the Google Meet. I'm assuming you know you can put them into different rooms and so they can work together. So some of those kids are working together in groups even on Zoom and they have a partner or two partners and I just read something on in an article about how teachers kind of maybe have a crazy hat day and they do a variety of things and if the teacher wants to, he or she could probably get pretty creative and do a lot of fun things.
all right. So let's assume that you're talking to a parent and their child is trying to do the online learning using Zoom or some other technology and is struggling, maybe not wanting to even watch, sometimes just signing off, not sending in the homework. Give us a couple of tips. What would you say to parents? I mean, particularly, you're helping your granddaughter do this,
Okay.
so give us some insight and some tips. What are the main nuggets that a parent should be involved in making this work?
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to tell you that online learning isn't for every child, and some children will adapt to it. Some children really struggle, and to be accountable for when you're doing online learning for some children, that's not a priority. So parents have to do things to encourage them and support them. One thing I think is really important is to have a daily schedule. Um, Probably for the online learning, maybe the teacher time or teacher meeting or teacher uh, teaching will create some of the schedule. But there's a whole day of learning for those students, even if they're online. And so they need to have a schedule that they can rely on, a schedule that gives them work time, gives them some break times. I know with our granddaughter, every day we have a break sometimes. Sometimes it's to go out and play foursquare on the driveway. Sometimes it's to take a quick trip to our favorite Starbucks and get something and come back. Sometimes it's a quick trip to go see her cousins for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and come back. But we have to we have to schedule work times, but we also need to schedule some break times in there, something that the child can look forward to during the day. Sometimes I have the availability of being home full time because I'm retired, but there are parents who have to work at home and do
Absolutely.
other things.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
what do they do?
well, you might, one suggestion that I might have would be they have a daily checklist. And as their child goes through that daily checklist of things that they need to do for their online learning, they can check them off. So the parent can see how they're doing and the child can see that they have can have some satisfaction of finishing a task. Um, I also think that you need to have a good learning space. Um, we started out at the kitchen table when all this COVID hit way back in March,
Sure.
and the kitchen table in our house, even though I'm retired, that's kind of a busy place sometimes. So I found another place in the house with a little desk or table and a little lamp, and created a learning space that was a little bit more private and quiet. Um, I think it's important for children who can manage it to give them some autonomy in their learning. So you're not always looking over their shoulder. With younger children, you might need to more, but I had an agreement with my granddaughter that I would check in with her regularly and make sure she's doing okay, but I wouldn't always be there looking over her shoulder, which was, I love learning and I love kids learning. So it's harder for me to stay away than it is her for me to, but a good workspace where she has, where a child has what they need is very important too. And I also think the last thing I'll say is to set clear expectations with your child, or what you want them to do during that school day at home. And just be upfront and talk about that, because what you want them to do won't be communicated to them unless it comes out of your mouth, and you let them know in a kind way. And I have heard parents talk about their children being kind of emotional and distressed about not being with their friends at school and their teachers. And I know how excited they are that they're getting to go back little by little. But just talking with them about those feelings, I think is very important. And being calm, being home with your children day in and day out, and then being responsible for helping them with their learning can be a challenge, especially for parents who have other things to do during the day. And staying calm, I think, is very important too.
So basically, we're talking about parents are going to have to be, or grandparents are going to have to be much more involved with the child for this to be even halfway successful. Would that be?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. All right, one last request for you. We're going to put this as part of our newsletter for the firm. And in that newsletter, we always have a recipe, and I know what a wonderful cook you are. So I'm going to ask you to send us a recipe so we can share it with our clients. Will you do that for me?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Your favorite recipe. I want to see that. So.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.